Penguin fans need to sell a home or buy one? Go with the top producing team in the nation, the Amy Wenger team with eXp Realty. Serving Northeast Ohio for 28 years, experience real estate that achieves your goals and exceeds your expectations. Call today and tell them you subscribe to the Penguin Nation Fans podcast, and they will ensure that you are treated like family. Call 330-681-6090 or visit amysguarantee.com. Go Gwins. All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Penguin Nation Fans podcast. As always, I am your host, Gino Leone. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at YTown Nation, and don't forget to check out my written work over on Redshirt Sports. Today, I'm recapping YSU's final scrimmage of fall camp as the Penguins' offense versus defense went at it for about 2 hours this morning, Saturday morning. And now next week, the real deal starts. The football season's right around the corner. They're going to start preparing for Mercyhurst, actually scouting Mercyhurst and just getting ready to go for that game. So we finally made it through a long off season. It's been a significant off season for me as I've taken a writing opportunity with Last Word on Sports. So that's added to my responsibilities, but I'm looking forward to another great season of YSU football coverage. And let's get into this scrimmage because it's never a good idea to overreact to a scrimmage when you're going against the same teammates, the same offense, the same defense every single day in practice. And this is why I think college football would really benefit, honestly, from having some preseason scrimmages where YSU goes and plays another team in the FCS that maybe you don't see on the schedule, but it allows you to play a real opponent, get some film out there, see what you need to adjust and really get your base formations down. I mean, you see these NFL preseason games, these are pros and they're still making mistakes because it's the first game they've played in a long time. It's important to get that base defense, base offense, and the core identity of what you want to do on special teams in. I really just think that's something college football should consider, and I hope that is considered in the future. But regardless, YSU finished a scrimmage today. It was a very competitive scrimmage, a very similar story from what we saw in last week's scrimmage. The offense started off hot with a 13-play, 81-yard drive as the number one offense went against that number one defense. Bo Brungard completed 4 or 5 passes on the drive, and then they capped that drive off with Antoine Gardner punching it in for a 3-yard touchdown run. That's sort of a bit of an interesting storyline there, is that Antoine Gardner has emerged as that short yardage back. I mentioned in an article a couple of weeks ago how I believe that Antoine Gardner had sort of overtaken Tahir Mills as that number 2 back in the backfield. I sort of think we're seeing that carry out throughout fall camp. Gardner has been used in a lot of different short yardage situations. I think we have a deep stable of running backs, but Gardner offers a different running style to Jaden Gilbert. And then Donald Barksdale's another name to watch out there for at running back. He's super explosive, shifty running back. I'm excited to see what he can do. The second team unit then after that drive had a quick scoring drive after an incomplete pass. Lewis connected with Peyton Bjork after the drive started with that incompletion. And then on the next play, Lewis connected with Connor Smith, that lengthy wide receiver we brought in from Assumption, for a 17-yard score. And then the defense rose up. The next 4 possessions, the defense had the upper hand. And that's sort of what you should expect, right? And I know how elite our offense is projected to be this season. I know how good they were last season, but that should be expected, that the defense is going to win some possessions, the offense is going to win some possessions, and I think the defense overall in this scrimmage looked better than they did in the last scrimmage. They got absolutely gashed through the air in the last scrimmage. I felt like there was more of a fight in this scrimmage, and there was a couple of broken up passes that were nice from Dev Holman and a couple of other key contributors in the back end of the defense as YSU breaks in, this new 3-4 scheme on defense. Another thing to note in terms of personnel on defense, it appears that cornerback Brandon Chambers Jr. is getting first-team reps at this point in the preseason. It's a very competitive corner battle. I know I've talked about Darvin Tunis. Dev Holman appears to be a lock at that corner role, but I'm not so sure that YSU has figured out who's going to start and rise to the occasion at that other cornerback role. We'll have to see what that looks like when that depth chart comes out for the Mercyhurst game, but I've seen a lot of Brandon Chambers Jr., a returning cornerback, in the mix. Stephen Henderson, linebacker. Probably a guy I should have talked about a bit more this offseason. It's a guy I'm super high on. He's going to play linebacker in Remedio's 3-4 scheme, and I think that's how we should utilize him. And I think he's super athletic. There's a lot of different things we can do with him. We can use him in different pass rushing situations. He is a super talented linebacker, a guy that hasn't been super productive since being here, but I would expect him to take a massive step forward next season. The safety battle continues to ramp up with Cam Smith, Stanley Klein, and Josiah Williams-West, and then you can't discount Weston Sturzinger there. And then on offense, another quick note here. I know we already talked about Brian Hunt kind of emerging as that number one go-to target for Bo Brungard, the transfer from Findlay, but it appears that Dorian Williams, the big target we brought in from Ohio State, has sort of emerged as that red zone threat for YSU, a guy that Bo Brungard can just toss it up to, and he can go and get it, and that's super valuable to have. We have a lot of length in the wide receiver room. I even mentioned with the second team how Connor Smith had that 17-yard touchdown reception. That shows the length we have in the red zone threats and the contested catch ability that we have this year, where maybe last season, if Bo Brungard tries to go up top, that's not really an option, and I think that at times hurt us in the red zone. So having Williams as that big red zone threat is huge, and that's really it. Those are really the big storylines of this game. It was a back-and-forth scrimmage. Brungard and Williams played well. They connected a lot. Bo continues to be proficient as a passer. He finished 18 of 24 for 199 yards and 2 scores. He had 7 carries for 18 yards. I don't know how much of that had to do with just Yurcich wanting him to sit back there and pass the ball and not wanting him to take any risk with getting hurt, but they wouldn't have tackled him either way. So I'm not so sure if that had to do with Remedio scheming something up to limit his legs, because if you're playing Bo Brungard, you have to take away probably his legs and make him beat you through the air, which is still a terrible option because Bo's so good now with his arm, and I think he might be a better passer this season than what he was last season. So, again, great competition. I know Coach Phillips says this a lot, and I know it's sort of a cliche thing to say, but iron sharpens iron is real. I would like to see preseason scrimmages for college football. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. We're going to have to get out our early mishaps against Mercyhurst, and I can't believe it's here already. Football season's right around the corner, and this team will be preparing for a rematch with Coach Remedio's old team Monday morning at Stambaugh Stadium. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Penguin Nation Fans Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to leave the show a 5-star review and continue to support the podcast on social media. For now, I'm Gino Leone, and as always, go Gwins.